Hi friends, welcome back. It's been a while since I've been able to record a video. Things have been kind of crazy. I'm currently filming a vlog right now also, and I go into a little bit more depth about like what's been going on. So I'm not going to do that here, but I'm back today and I'm going to do a February wrap up of all the books that I read in February. February was actually quite a good reading month for me. Let me see how many books. I read 5 books, which is pretty good for me. Sometimes I read up to like 8 to 10 books a month. Sometimes I read in the middle at 5. Sometimes I read 2. So 5 is pretty good for me. I think that's like my goal for every month is to read 4 or 5 books. Um, last January, I kicked off with a bang and I read 10 books. I don't know what happened, but I have not hit that since then. That is when I read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, so I flew through that series in like 3 days. So I think that's a big contributing factor to why I read 10 books last January. But, anyways, besides the point, I'm going to talk about the books I read in February. So, the first book that I finished in February was To Clutch a Razor by Veronica Roth, which is the second book in the duology. I can't remember the name of the duology. I think it's Curse Breaker, Curse Bearer, something like that. But I really enjoyed this little duo. It was a lot of fun. I think Veronica Roth did a really good job setting up a fantasy world, a pretty strong one at that, in only 2 books. And also, both of these books were under 250 pages. So I think she did a really good job because I think that's kind of hard to do. But I really enjoyed reading about it. It's about Slavic folklore. I have a bunch of different types of vampires, and I thought that was really cool. The story at its heart is kind of like a found family, which I love. So I really enjoyed it. If you're looking for like a really quick, fun fantasy series, highly recommend When Among Crows and To Clutch a Razor. It took me maybe 3 days, 2 or 3 days to finish both of them. I think honestly, some people could even finish this in one sitting. So really liked this one, and I cannot remember what I rated it. Let me look. Okay, I ended up rating this one 4 stars. I need to be better prepared. The next book I read, I'm not going to talk much about because I already talked pretty in depth about it in my last video. But that is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I read this book over a 6 week time period because I really wanted to pace myself. So you can see my pacing here. But moral of the story is I loved it. I rated this 5 stars. It was truly not what I was expecting. I never read this in high school. And I feel like I knew the gist of the story, but I honestly didn't know much. Nothing really got spoiled for me. So I went into this book not really knowing exactly what was going to happen. My main takeaway is I cannot believe that Heathcliff and Kathy's love story has been the main takeaway from this book because I feel like it was obviously so much more than that. The family drama and the torment and the hatred and the anger that everyone has towards each other is crazy. The trauma, also crazy, like just generations of hatred towards these in between these two families. And it was crazy. I really liked it. The writing did take me a minute to get into, but I'm so happy that I finally read this one, and I ended up rating it 5 stars. I did also go see the movie. So if you want to hear about that, watch my Wuthering Heights vlog because I talk way more about both of those things. Next book I read was Deep Cuts by Holly Brickley. We read this book for my local book club. This was actually the book that I put in the pot to read. I had high hopes for this book going into it. I have a friend that read it, and she said that it wasn't her absolute favorite, but that she said she thought that I would really like it. And I did enjoy it, but I also have some qualms with it. I'll start with the positives. I really liked the music aspect of it. I thought it was really interesting to get into the characters' heads and see how they relate music to their lives because that's not something that I really do. I mean, I love music, but I don't think about it as deeply as musicians do. Really interesting to see how Percy and Joe relate music to their life. So I really liked that aspect of it. This book is set over the course of a handful of years. I can't remember exactly how many, and I personally love books that span over time like that. But I will say, both of the main characters, Percy and Joe, Okay, let me start by saying I don't mind reading a book where the main characters are unlikable. But to me, it's always a plus when at the end the characters kind of have a character arc. You know, they become a little better, they learn. I'm not sure if either of these two did. I can't say much because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But yeah, I'm not sure if these two really grew all that much. I kind of feel like they ended up in the same spot that they started with. So, and I don't know if the author did that on purpose or if the author thought that they did change and grow. I'm not really sure. I did really like the female friendships in this book. There's one friendship, Zoe and Percy, that I really loved. I ended up rating this one somewhere between a 3.5 to 4 star. I wanted to sit on it for a little bit, and now that we're here talking about it, I think I would probably lean more towards 3.5 stars. The next book I listened to on audio, but I do have a copy, and that's Semi Well Adjusted Despite Literally Everything by Allison Stoner. I picked this up because Allison Stoner actually came to my town. I was kind of shocked. We don't get a lot of like famous people here. We get a lot of country singers because of Florida State University. We just had Miranda Lambert here and John Party, I think. But we don't really get a lot of famous people. T-Pain came, but that's because he's from here. And we literally had to fight for him to come back because Tallahassee pissed him off so bad. But he did come back, and I did go see him, and that was great. Anyways, besides the point, I listened to this book on audio, and Allison Stoner narrates it themselves. And I love when an author narrates their own book, especially when it's a memoir, because I feel like it just makes it that much more personal. So I listened to this before going to go see them at my Barnes and Nobles. I went to go see them, and I listened to this beforehand. And it was really sad. It was really, truly sad. I mean, I am close in age to Allison Stoner, so I feel like watching them on the TV growing up, like we kind of grew up together, and I watched Allison in so many things like Camp Rock. They made so many cameos in all the Disney shows growing up, and the Step Up movies were some of my favorites. So it was really interesting to see what was going on behind the scenes while all of that stuff was happening. Like I said, really sad. They went through a lot, and I think it's something that no child should ever have to go through. I think it's really admirable and brave that they put everything they went to down on paper for us to read. And I think it's really great what Allison is doing with their platform now. I know that they are doing a lot for mental health in younger kids and also helping out with young kids in Hollywood. And I just think it's really great that they were able to take their story and use it to help others. So maybe the same thing doesn't happen to them. But highly recommend listening to this one. I think I ended up rating this 5 stars. I usually don't rate memoirs unless it's anything 4 stars and above, because I think things like this are super personal. And who am I to dog on someone's life story? You know what I mean? So, yeah, highly recommend this one if you want to listen to a memoir and you grew up watching all the same Disney shows that I did. Okay, and then the last one is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This was a incredible story. The writing style was a little different. It jumped around a lot because it spans over many, many, many years. It's basically about these two sisters, and they grow up in a town that is all people of color, but they're all really, really light skinned. So some of them can almost pass as white. And the sisters end up running away together, and eventually they get separated because one of them decides that she wants to live her life as a white person. So they get separated and they do not see each other for years and years and years. So the story is not only about them, but it's about their family and the generations surrounding them. One of the daughters of the sisters is a very big part of the story, and I actually think her story was my favorite. But I feel like the main themes to take away from the story are obviously white privilege and class, identity, family trauma, and kind of the impact that your decisions and secrets can make. And I thought that this book was absolutely incredible. I have been really trying hard lately to read more authors of color because I think it's really important to diversify your shelf. And lately, I have been looking at my shelf and saying, I can do better. So this was very high on my priority list for last month, and I'm really glad that I read it. I think I ended up rating it a 4.5 star, and I really wish that I would have annotated this book. I got more into annotating right after I read this book. I think literally the book right after this, I started picking up my pencil again, and I go back and forth with annotating all the time, but I really wish I would have annotated this one. I think it's important for all people to read stories like this because it is important to see the perspective of other people, other classes, other societies, and other races. Highly, highly, highly recommend this one. And as I sit here thinking back on this one, I think that I would even bump up my rating a little bit to closer to like a 4.75. Really glad I finally read this one because I've had this one on my shelf for quite some time. I got it in a Christmas book exchange a couple years ago. So I don't know if Britt Bennett has written anything else, but I'm really excited and I hope that she's working on something new because I would absolutely pick it up. I did read one more book. I technically finished it in March. The last week in March was absolutely insane. So I had full intentions on finishing this book in February, but it did not happen. I think I finished it on March 2nd. I read the entirety of what I had left in on March 2nd. So yes, I technically finished it in March, so I won't talk about it a lot, but I did want to mention it. And that is the Arcane Inheritance by Camilla Cole. I'll talk about it more in my March wrap up, but I did want to mention it because it was on my February TBR. I want to say I technically read it in February, but since I finished it in March, I will wait. But it was pretty good and I have thoughts about it. So come back for that one. All right, so these are the books that I finished in February. I think I had a pretty good reading month last month, and I'm off to a good start in March also. I'm really excited about the books that I've read so far. So I can't wait to talk about those. But like I said earlier, I'm really trying to diversify my shelves. So if you guys have any recommendations of authors of different races, nationalities, I would love, love, love to hear them. And let me know what your favorite read was from February. Honestly, it's really hard to choose a favorite between all of these, but I think if I had to choose one, it would probably be a tie between Wuthering Heights and The Vanishing Half. But yeah, let me know what yours is down below. Well, that is it for my February reads. Hopefully, I will be better this month about making more videos. We'll see. I have ideas. It's just executing them and actually taking the time to sit down and record them seems to be the hard part. But thank you for watching. Keep an eye out for new videos, and I will see you next time. And make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.